Trav. Oh, guys, I'm so excited to be able to introduce our guest today. We have got Drew from Web3, my man, the myth, and also the legend. How are you doing today, brother? What's happening on your end of the world?
Doing well, doing well. I mean, thank you for the invitation. Here it's 9 p.m. I'm in Thailand for the month, traveling a little, keeping doing my own thing, which is mainly video editing, but that's about it. Now we're here.
Man, that's like the fact that no, I'm a little bit old school. People know this about me already, but the fact that we are having a live conversation literally on opposite ends of the world, because I'm on the west coast of Canada, for anyone who may not know that. It just blows my mind here, dude. So thank you so much for taking the time today to come hang out with us, come chat all things Drew, video editing, content creation, all the things. This is going to be a hell of a stream today, and I am so excited to dive in. So you know what, Drew? Let's just dive right in here. So maybe to start off with,
Let's
man,
go
I
for it.
think to our actually, you know what? Let me address our audience here real quick. I just want to thank you guys for being a part of this conversation today. These are meant to be live, interactive conversations. So if you guys do have any burning questions you want me to ask Drew or you want Drew to ask me, whichever you guys like, let us know here. We're definitely going to keep our eyes on the comments. And yeah, the reason you're hanging out here today is because Drew is one of the most, literally one of the most up and coming content creators that I've come across on X. His work is polished. I know, Drew, I would love for you to give us a bit of an intro to your work and to you here in a quick second here. But if you guys don't know, just go check out Drew from Web3 on X, and you will immediately understand why this is such an exciting interview here today. So, Drew, without further ado, shall we just jump right in?
Let's do it. I mean, to give a little quick TLDR, because the goal here is not to talk necessarily only about myself, but actually provide value to the people watching right now, right? But to
100%.
actually give a little bit of background, what I mainly do is video editing in Web3, right? I moved full time beginning of this year. I've been doing it for 3 years total. So this is my main kind of gig, right? This is what I actually do. But now I'm expanding on the other side, which is instead of being behind the camera, I'm moving in the front of the camera. So I'm doing valuable content, which is tutorials, technical tutorials, anything that comes to mind. I'm like, hey, this is a pain point, I can find a solution. I now do my own content too. So it's kind of a mix of both right now.
That's awesome, man. Honestly, that we're just getting right into it. There's no further delay here. One of the first things from one of the first conversations that we had was that word pain point. How important is that concept of pain points when coming up with like scripts, coming up with written content? Like how does the magic happen there?
I mean, finding pain points and finding a solution is pretty much I'm looking a math formula almost, like in everything you do, right? If I take on the business side of things, you want to find a pain point because if you want your skill to have a dollar sign attributed to it, it needs to fix a problem, right? If you're telling me, hey, I want to run a stream and I don't know how to run it, there's a certain amount of money you're willing to pay because I can explain to you how to actually run it, right? On the other end, for actual like content and scripting, finding that pain point is important because if you don't bring any value, I mean, it could even be in entertainment, right? What's the pain point for a viewer that watches like entertainment? The pain point is trying to be amused, trying to be entertained, right? That's the pain point. You bring a solution with entertainment. In my case, because it's educational content, it's really this is a question, it may affect you. Here's the solution, right? Or my opinion on it generally. So pain point is everything on all aspects. Business, personal level, content. You need it all the time.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So, man, I want to keep these conversations as organic as possible, just so everyone knows there's no script, there's no prep. We're just here to have a chat today, and I'm so excited about that here. So, Drew, right off the bat, something that came to mind is I'm so glad that you brought the idea of education, but then also entertainment. So, like, how how was that journey for you to kind of find that balance in being kind of entertaining and engaging, but then also kind of keeping that educational component to it as well? Because it's super easy to go kind of one direction or the other, like a little too much. Either you're like purely educational and it's kind of dry and no one actually wants to sit there and watch your video, or it's just pure entertainment a lot of clickbait, no real substance to it. How do you find that balance?
In my case, it was pretty simple in the sense that the first time I showed my face on Twitter was in June 2025. So 6 months after moving full time, I had never doxed. I showed my face for my show reel, which the idea of show reel for context is when as a video editor, you want to have a small minute, 2 minute video where you show all of your work. So when someone is wondering if what kind of work you do, you can actually have it all in a minute or two, right? Super
Right.
simple. I said one line in it. I said, "Hey, I'm Drew. Let me show you what I can do." Right? This was my first time showing up on camera. But before then, all my tweets were educational or showcasing my work. So for me, it was really, really easy to go into like I would say educational content. I've never found a way where I was like, I'm an entertainer. I'm like, what's the easiest thing I can do? I've got all of this experience that happened to me with editing. What can I do with content? This was easy. Educate people on video editing, on technicals, right? Now, on the other end, I'm kind of expanding into like a weekly vlog while I'm in Asia, which is more like entertainment, right? It's like, hey, I'm just showing you what's going on in my day. But even then, it's not like shit posting or like, I don't know, any type of content that's not valuable in a sense. Like, I'm trying to bring not only entertainment, but really kind of showcase what's going on my end, right? But for me, it was
Yes.
really easy. Educational is the way. It's what I consume the most, like documentaries, tutorials. I was like, there's no other option for me.
I love that. I love that. And there's a couple of cool things that are like connecting in my brain as you say this. One is that it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like if you can do both, like
Yep.
throughout your time as a creator here, um, and that you're doing something that you're familiar with, you're doing something that you're comfortable with, and when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to passion and quality of work, like that just makes sense that you would want to do something that you know so much about. That's really cool.
It's easy, right? The goal
Yeah.
with when you start with content, like I don't want to skip any questions. As you said, we've got no scripts here, but you want
Yeah.
to make it as frictionless as possible, as easy as possible to make the content, right?
Mm.
So if for finding ideas or finding the knowledge, you don't need to go read for hours on end about a specific subject or whatever, like you already know it. Just convert it into content. So that's the whole idea behind it too.
I love it. I love it. So maybe Drew, actually, can you tell us a little bit about kind of what your workflow looks like when it comes to actually creating a video, for example? Like when does the ideation happen? Like all the way through to, press post on X, just high level.
Yeah, high level, I mean, to come back to it's gonna link a little bit to the educational part and kind of entertainment, right? Because at first, when I started, my first video took me like an hour to record, like way too long, and then I didn't have an animator yet. Now I've got an animator, which helps the whole process, and like over time it kind of evolved. But now my process is, if you look closely with my content, there's three
Yes.
videos a week. One is going to be technical or educational about video editing. One is going to be super technical, a tutorial. And the third one is going to be very personal. So, like a
Mm.
story that happened to me or something that happened. So, to come back to your point, I do a mix between educational and personal without
Mm.
going off the rails, right? That's the whole idea with it. But how it usually works, I mean, for ideating, it's hard to sit down and think about ideas, right? My best ideas did not come down from sitting down and trying to find specific subjects. I did it for like technical videos because it's pretty straightforward. Like I do audio, I do video, and then what do can I do in subsections and learn like showcase to people about, right? But my best ideas come from like memories that happens and I write everything down, whether it's on a post-it in my phone, I text it on my own Telegram, on phone number, all your ideas, you don't want to lose them because usually the ideas when you're like in the shower and you're like walking outside is your best ideas because they all come of you just thinking, doing nothing, right?
Mm.
So do my ideating. It's not a specific moment. Sometimes it happened, but once I've got all my ideas, this is where I go into scripting, right? The goal with scripting is to keep it as short as possible, under a minute. If it's longer, it's because it's a really huge explainer video, which is usually what I do with my sponsorships because there's more to cover, more things to say. But otherwise, it's really under a minute. It's my whole goal. It's like, hey, your time is valuable. So the best thing I can do is save you time and condense everything in a minute instead of two, for example. So this is where I go into scripting. The whole part about the scripting is finding a good hook, making sure it's interesting, and then linking those with my animations, right? Because I do heavy motion design, which is when you see a video with a bunch of animations on top, text appearing. This is all what we call motion design, right? And so I need to do all the explanations for my animator. So I do it in Photoshop to showcase him what I want, the movements, what's written, and link them with the text. And then it goes to him and it comes back to me to posting. And for posting, it's not like I'm not overthinking it. It's one video every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6, 7, 8 a.m. EST, and that's it. I click post. If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit. The video is still going to come out 2 days later.
That makes a ton of sense, man. Okay, so much to take away from that, and so much that's going to help me personally here. Actually, starting off from the ideating, I actually joined. I know you know Chris, like Flyride. He's just one of my favorite. Like, he got me into video editing. Let me just say that here. The man's freaking legend, heart of gold
He's
here.
good.
Yeah, he's solid. Very established as well here. I was in a space with him yesterday, and we were talking about just AI and content creation here. And he basically said for the ideation process, for him it was more so sit down and write down, just do like a brain dump of all of these personal experiences that have impacted your journey when it comes to, your career as a content creator and all of that here. Which really resonated here because I feel like those are the stories that people actually want to read about because it's personal. Yep. And these are the sort of things that capture people's attention here. But that part about not forcing it and actually just having something available to you to actually write these ideas down as they come to you, that is going to help me out like crazy. I think one of my biggest pain points when it comes to content is I get almost like a writer's block. I just have no idea what to write, and that pressure kind of builds, and then I just kind of avoid it like the plague here. But actually having a little bit more grace and just allowing those ideas to come to me, and just not writing or not forgetting to write them down and not forgetting about them forever is brilliant. That is super cool. Did that kind of come from
it's the
a lot
best
of?
way to do it.
Okay.
I mean, you can leverage AI. Like, sorry, just to do a little parenthesis here, talking with Chris. Like, you can kind of try to force it in a sense. Like, if, for example, like you've got a video that needs to be done like in 48 hours. Like, there's no option of being like, I'm gonna go take a walk for 2 days and come back with an idea. That's impossible. So, what you want to do in your whole process is kind of leverage AI, but don't let AI control you. Right? You want to make, like Chris said himself, like this is what he said verbatim on my spaces, make AI your bitch, right? You want to make AI useful to remove all the tasks that doesn't require any brain process, brain energy, and you really want to use AI to help you keep those creative blocks, to find ideas, to work on the creative part of things. So even for ideas, like, it depends. You could say, hey, even ChatGPT for free. Like, I paid a premium. I'm going to be honest. I use it a whole ton. I say, hey, you got ideas for me? And sometimes it's just like, oh, this title is not at all what I want, but I remember about a story that was more personal that happened to me, right? So it's kind of that whole idea that you can kind of write down all the ideas, but if you need to force it, you can too, but you want to make sure that it's not copy-paste stuff from AI too.
That makes a ton of sense. Keep it real, keep it organic, and use AI like your bitch. I think that's perfect. Shout out to Chris here as well. That's I love that, and that makes a ton of sense too. Exactly. You don't want AI to run the show, because that's where all this AI slop comes from here. So no, that's great. One thing I did want to ask you about here, Drew, is it definitely piqued my attention. You have an animator to actually create the animations and the motion graphics in your videos. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I know that's kind of another one of my pain points when it comes to video editing, is that I want to make it super flashy. I want to spend all this time actually editing here. but then like I just get overwhelmed and don't do anything. What kind of went into that part of your journey when it comes to getting an animator on your team?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. It's plain and simple. When I look at my calendar on Google Calendar, it's packed, right? And like when I say packed, it's not like 8 hours a day from Monday to Friday. It's like 12-hour days, 6 days a week, right?
Wow.
So I was like, if I truly want to take this content journey seriously, and like I did not get paid for 3 months and a half, I was like, I need to bring more arms on board, right? And my whole idea was the content for Web3 content, the content bar, I mean, the standard is, I would say at best, like if you compare to YouTube, B plus, like B content. A plus on Web3 is B plus I can find on my For You page on YouTube, right? So I was like, if I really want to take it seriously and bring it to another level, which is one, doing it consistently, two, keep the quality standard pretty high, and three, leverage my time into more, either doing more client work or actually thinking more on the creative side, I need to bring somebody on board. That was pretty much the calculation. There's no much, like, you need to sometimes when there's like, because I'm not the best at motion design, I was like, I'm going to pay someone. He's going to do it better than me. And worst case, I'm simply going to work more to pay that guy.
Mhm. That makes a ton of sense, man. Time management is key when you're trying to go full time, and make sure to do that cost benefit analysis is what I'm taking,
And
right?
even if you're break even, right? Like for example, if we say, okay, if you pay your animator, let's say 4 grand a month, right? You're like, hey, I need to work an extra 4 grand after tax. Well, an extra 4 grand to pay him. But at the end of the day, you would have took that time to do it yourself, but it would have been worse. So it's
Mm,
like sometimes you're better to kind of take a risk and investing into your content so it can pay off later, right? That's my whole
makes
bet. That's my whole thesis.
yeah.
Our Web3 content, we need better content in the sense that there's so many brands willing to pay creators, but so few creators that actually have, I would say, a big following that can convert and invest in their content. Now, I feel that in the last 3 to 6 months, there's a lot more that are coming. Like, shout out Shiv, I work with him, I'm biased. But like, he's investing a whole lot into his content. Like, Bold Liquidity, they're doing like retreats in Costa Rica and they're doing like awesome sponsorship content with brands. And I'm like, wow, this is the bar I want to hit, right? So it's kind of, you don't see the investment coming back into your pockets now, but I truly believe that it will in 12 months from now.
Okay. Okay. Huge takeaway there. So that's actually because I do want to get into, your experiences working with Shiv, working with all of these other major brands, but I definitely I want to hit on a couple more things before we step into that realm here. And the one
Go
thing I
for it.
really wanted to hit, actually, there's two things. First thing is, um, hold on, what was my question here? Okay, I feel like you've already alluded to this, but how important is it to establish your own personal brand on social media? Like, for example, you're doing it on X. How important is that? How much does someone focus on that?
I mean, it should be your priority number one, right? If you run, like, I did it by accident. I'm going to be honest. I never was like, the concept of personal brand came into my ears in 2025, but I have been doing it for the last 3, 4 years. In the sense, I was posting at least 1 or 2 times a week about, hey, I just did this edit and here you go, I'm going to show my work. And yet at the end of the day, after 2, 3 years, people were like, hey, if you need someone for edits, this Drew from Web3 guy does edits. And that's the whole concept of a personal brand. Shout out to Captain CK, founder of Reach.
Huge
He
shout
said
out.
you want to become that guy in your field, right? And becoming that guy means that when people need something or think about someone for a specific need or subject, they think about you. And in my case, per accident, I actually became one of those guys in editing, right? In Web3 specifically. So, I mean, to me, it's everything. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to bring you more connections, it's going to bring you more deals, and people are willing to actually work with you, even though if there's somebody else that they're working with or like whatever, right? Your name is everything. Everybody can learn a skill, nobody can have your name.
Mm. Okay, Thank you for that, because I definitely needed that extra bit of motivation to put a little bit more effort into my own personal brand here, and that makes a ton of sense. You know, like it's your pathway to kind of showing your own proof of work, establishing yourself as an expert in whatever your niche is, and then creating those contacts, expanding your network. And honestly, for me personally, and for a lot of my close friends here in Web3, it's that network that provides all of those opportunities here. Don't fade your network here, friends. That's huge. I actually have a question for you, Drew, from one of the Web3 Matters team members here, Kobe, represent Kobe here. Um, Let me just pull this up here. He had two questions. Actually, it was about AI, and I'm just scrolling back in the chat here, and I can't seem to find it. Give me 2 more seconds. And no, I'm not going to waste any more time here. Basically, is AI going to replace video editors, and or what sort of AI tools or resources do you use to help boost your workflow in video editing, if any?
Okay, great. Yeah, let's start with question two. It's going to be simpler that way. I
Mhm.
mean, for AI, I don't use like, you see tutorials where people see AI to generate 3D stuff and all, but I don't really need it. I more so use it to actually leverage my time to put more time on the creative part, as I said before, right? Let's take an example. I want to do a clip on the podcast and I know they spoke about a specific thing. I'm not going to re listen to the podcast. I'm going to export the transcript, put in ChatGPT, and go directly to that timestamp to find my clip, right? Here you go. I just saved probably an hour 15 of my time just by clicking three buttons, right? Or other stuff, it's like I ask when I do After Effects to do like animations or trying stuff. Sometimes I want to do an animation, but it's not worth it to put like crazy amount of time into actually finding the logic behind it. So I asked ChatGPT like, "Hey, could you help me do a formula to actually move this from there?" and explain to me which variables I can change into that animation, right? So it gives me a formula, I input it in, and I can tweak those little data points, right? So I actually save time of finding a template or doing it myself from scratch. So I would say I don't use AI like crazy for actual editing, but I use it a lot to be more efficient to my process pipeline, right? And as the part, will video editors replace AI? This is my completely neutral take here because as a video editor, sure, I could say AI is not going to replace any video editors. We're all good. You guys should not use AI. It's dog shit. Right now, the AI softwares are not excellent, right? But at one point, they 100% will. Like the last 2 years with AI, there's so much stuff that actually happened, and there's how many did in the US the biggest companies invest, like Google, Facebook, Meta, into AI, like $800 billion,
Hundreds
and
of
you're
billions,
telling me
yes.
nobody's going to be able to filter my footage from a whole documentary I filmed on 2 days? That's false, right? It for sure is going to happen at one point. I do think that the video editors that are not adapting to the technology over time will actually lose their jobs. But the ones that can leverage AI to be either more efficient or more creative are going to be the ones that are going to be able to thrive over time, right? Let's take an
Awesome.
example. I use whatever, I don't know, in the future. I film a documentary over 2 days and I need to filter that footage. Imagine I've got an AI filtering my footage for me with what I asked him, and it takes maybe an hour instead of me taking 8. And with AI, I can actually start, I don't know, doing like a first version that's not perfect, but it cuts something up for me, and I save 15 hours with that process.
Wow.
Now, the only thing I can do is listen to it the whole time and make sure it's perfect to every detail, right? So you remove with AI the biggest parts, which doesn't ask for your brain to be like to intervene, and actually be work on the creative part. So all this to say, the editors that will leverage AI will make it. The other ones will just like anything, right? If you in the internet era, which I was born for like a year maybe,
Yeah.
but probably our parents, grandparents needed to adapt, right, in certain jobs. But the ones that didn't, they just kind of didn't keep into the loop, right? And which AI will just be parabolic how much people need to adapt, right? And we're lucky on crypto Twitter because I feel we all get everything since 6 months in advance. So if you see anything, test it out, try it out. Just make sure you stay into the loop.
That is such a solid piece of advice right there, and you're absolutely right. It's crazy. I think it was an article I read, or it was a conversation I was a part of. I don't remember at this point here, but basically, someone was asking people just outside of X, outside of kind of the echo chamber of crypto Twitter here, and barely anyone had heard of things like OpenClaw or Claude Code or any of these like brand new revolutionary AI pieces of technology here. Whereas people in CT, it's all over the place. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's experimenting. Everyone's buying their Mac
Yep.
Minis so that they can create these always on AI
I want to buy
platforms
one.
here. Yeah, me too. Really,
I
really
want to buy
badly.
one. Like right now, I cannot. Like I'm gonna be honest, I don't have any lease in Canada because I'm from Canada. For context, and like I'm in Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia for 3 months, and like I'm gonna be honest. I saw Clawbot 3 days before flying out, and I was like, do I buy a Mac Mini today? Do I do it? I was like, not worth it. But even then, a lot of people say, is it worth it to spend $700 on something that I may not even use? I do believe it's as if you were paying for education around AI. That's the only thing. You don't need to use it. You just need to really stay into the loop of what's going on. And the day you see something you can actually use, you use it. You try
Yes.
to make it as efficient as possible for yourself. But until then, just test out stuff and stay into the loop. This is the most important thing.
I think that's the strongest piece of advice that I've heard. That's like the best take I've heard on AI so far. So thank you for that. You're paying for your education because while it makes things a hell of a lot easier, there is still a huge learning curve when it comes to vibe
Yeah.
coding and understand, repos and all these different things that I'm still trying to wrap my head around here. But,
It's
but,
just to,
but, but,
like stay into the loop. So the day something useful is there, you understand the baseline and can actually use it already, right? Or kind of be already further ahead on that learning curve. That's the whole idea here.
100%. Right? Or even if things. So Kobe, I just want to give Kobe another quick shout out here. He's our developer for Web3 Matters. He's the guy he's like a vibe coding connoisseur, if I may. He has been vibe coding since like some of the earliest versions of ChatGPT, where you actually had to like copy and paste code blocks from one program to another. And just even
Yep.
though things have gotten exponentially easier and smoother and more automatic here, developing that understanding right from the get-go has made that transition for him so much more seamless, and having that such a deep and rich understanding of how all this stuff works behind the scenes is like set him
Yep.
ahead leaps and bounds. Like it's so impressive to see from zero code experience a year and a half 2 years ago now to building an app in a day is just crazy to me. So yes, it is
Yeah,
worth
well, he keeps that
and
+1 on everybody else, right? At one point,
100%.
everybody's going to be able to use Cloudbot or whatever tech is going to be out there, right? If
Yes,
everybody has that baseline, you want to make sure to be that +1. That's the whole concept here. Tech
love
is
that.
never going to stop to, like, the evolution of tech is always going to be happening. You simply need to stay in the loop with that baseline or be +1 at least.
I love that. Solid take there, Drew. I really appreciate that. Last quick question I want to just kind of cycle back to real quick because you really piqued my interest. When you said that you use AI to kind of come up with those calculations to put into After Effects to help with like create these
Yep.
animations. This just blew my mind because I use DaVinci Resolve as a video editor, and I think there's something similar that you can do with
Yep.
that. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And I'm sure this question's mostly going to be for like actual video editors out here. So definitely just be patient
Yeah,
with
for the
us.
nerds.
This is
Nerds in the
important.
chat.
Exactly. Welcome. It's your
Ah,
time to shine.
I mean, for example, when you do like a, position, scale, opacity, when you do alt click, I mean, I'm on MacBook, but like control click, I think on Windows, and there's like
Yeah.
that little code box that you can do into it. This is where I do it. For example,
Okay.
if I need to do like a number that goes up, like, from 0 to 100,
Mhm.
and usually you need to do like add a slider effect and then like mat dot round so the number doesn't have any comma and it
Mhm.
goes up from 0 to 100, for example. Instead of all finding the logic myself, I just asked ChatGPT, hey, please, I want to do an animation where it goes from 0 to 100 in that amount of time, and it just gives me the code to slide into it.
That's
It's
so
that
cool.
simple.
Okay. I'm gonna really be diving into this because this sounds like it's gonna be a huge time saver. I know I kind of actually have started this process on DaVinci Resolve, and apparently they
Yep.
use a programming language called Lua. Does that ring any bells for After Effects, or is this something completely different?
Not at all. Tell me more.
Okay.
Sorry, just a heads up. I'm moving to my charger because I'm outside and
Okay.
my Mac's gonna be dying. So keep going.
Okay, perfect. So apparently you can. So I just started experimenting with this. So for anyone who isn't familiar with DaVinci Resolve, you could use it for free, um, which is huge because it is a very high quality video editing program
Yeah.
here. They have a so like it's like the After Effects version of DaVinci Resolve, which is the Fusion tab, and you can actually basically code motion graphics with this programming language called Lua, Lua. And I've just started using Claude to help me come up with these programs to create these node trees to actually create these animations. And I've tried it once and it failed, but this is something that I feel like it's going to be a huge time saver if I could figure it out. So first of all, thank you for reminding me that something like this is a possibility here. But also maybe I'll try. I'll start off by not trying these crazy complex animations here. Maybe I'll start with making a box disappear and reappear and circle a couple of times. Maybe that'll be a good way to go.
Yeah, you go step by step. This is how you go up the learning curve, is trying stuff when you've got an idea, like working on a project. Let's just try it. 10 minutes, and here you go. 10 minutes each day is going to amount up to a whole lot of minutes at the end of the year, right? So that's the whole
100%.
idea here.
And that's actually super helpful for me too, and other people like myself who tend to get just sucked into that rabbit hole. Um, and I end up spending hours and hours and hours trying to do one stupid task. There's again cost benefit analysis to that. If you can learn it, then that's huge. But if you're just wasting your time here, 10 minutes a day seems a lot more productive for a situation like that.
And
Perfect,
it's
man.
less tiring too, right? What's
Mm,
the easiest way to build an habit too? Like, I mean, it's off topic. Like, I don't want to go into the whole like. If you didn't read Atomic Habits, please read it. Right?
I
Takes
will.
14 days to get an habit. Get an habit like actually in your how to say it in English here, but it
You can
takes
say
you
it in French
14
if you want.
days to have I mean, it takes you 14 days to get an habit actually into your schedule, right? Where you're
Mm,
like, after 14 days, the odds of you keep doing it for a month, 2 months, 3 months actually like explodes, right? So
mm.
if you do 10 minutes each day for at least 14 days, the odds are going to be that you're going to keep doing those 10 minutes and actually learn. But if you tell yourself, I'm only going to learn for 8 hours straight when I am motivated, it's never going to stick.
That is some really good advice. Actually, our other Web3 Matters team member, Quantic, just posted about Atomic Habits. So huge shout out to both you guys. I'm going to drag my butt to the bookstore today and kiboshing Amazon. Sorry, Amazon. I'm grabbing that book. I'm going to change my life here. That's perfect. Drew, if unless there was anything else you wanted to chat about this, I was super curious to start asking you about your travels and then your experience working with brands here. How does that sound?
Go for it. Anything.
Perfect.
I'm an open book. So any questions anybody has, as simple or dumb people would think it is too, ask your questions, guys.
I love it. I love it. I'm just pulling up the actual stream. So I'm not sure if you have the stream here, Drew. Riverside and X are doing this weird thing now where they're not actually posting the stream, but um it'll show the account as live. So I was a little bit delayed actually posting it, but it is posted now. We have almost 50 people watching us from our Web3 Matters account. So thank you guys so much for being here with us today. I'll just share you the link just so you do have it. So whichever let's
Perfect.
see. There you go. That is for you here. But getting back to the actual conversation, my friend, let me ask you this here. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about how you got into working with brands and how that kind of journey evolved to now working with some of these like rock star brands, rock star creators. And then I want to hear all about that. So let's just start from the basics.
Yeah, I mean, to give a little backstory here when I'm in Quebec, Canada, how it works is when you finish high school, before going to college, you need to go to something called cégep, right? It's kind of an
Cégep.
in-betweener between your high school and your college, right? So I studied into post-production, which was like, the classic production, post-production. So like TV studios, like we were getting trained to work on like, huge productions, like green screens, huge American productions all over the world, whatever. And when I finished, I actually worked for a year and 8 months, I believe so, for a company called Hybrid. And we worked on The Mandalorian, Star Wars, Jack Ryan, Jurassic
Wow.
World. And my job was to do rotoscopy, remove green screens, right? So I was at the bottom of the pipeline, and there was 20 people working on the same 2 second shot for a whole week, right? Which was pretty
Unreal.
insane. But to me, it didn't feel too much like it's too many people. You don't have like the huge creative control. So decided to go study into finance. And how I came about into like video editing in Web3 was pretty random. I had an old Twitter account. I was holding NFTs. I was like, let me go on Twitter, follow those projects. I'm going to make millions of dollars. And I came across a random Telegram link and clicked on it. And in that chat, there was 6 people. 2 or 3 were active. They were all punks holders. And one of them was a guy named Valko. And Valko became a good friend, almost a mentor to me. But at that time, I didn't know him at all. And one day he needed something just like that. I was like, hey, I would need to make a logo, right? I was like, hey, look, if you want for free, I'm gonna find someone for you to do that logo, and I'm just gonna be the middleman, right? So did this, he was happy with it, and later on, it's like, hey, I've got a spaces, I need some clips. Could you do it, right? And I know Premiere Pro, I know After Effects, but I was not good at it, really, right? I was basic level type of like production, right? And this was my first ever paid deal. It was like, hey, I'm gonna pay you $500 for the month. I'm gonna need X amount of clips, and let's do it. And this is just where everything started. I started doing more complex After Effects clips with him, Spaces clips, and then I just started putting myself out there and finding deals. And it just came with over time people seeing my work, and this is how I actually found clients.
That's awesome. So right back to that initial part of the conversation of you developing your personal brand to show your work and become known for the work that you do. That's super cool. Man, clipping spaces is where it all began. And yeah, shout out to you, Valco. I've heard that name before. That's cool to know that you guys were affiliated.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy.
So cool, man. So cool. So moving along, clearly that took off. You connected with legends like Shiv, huge brand deals. I just saw that. Are you now partnered with Claynosaurs as well?
No, I'm not partnered with Klano. I worked with
Okay.
them, but I'm not partner.
Okay, you're working with Clayno. That's super cool. So tell us a little bit about, some of these creators, some of these brands that you've worked with. Yeah, like it seems like this is something you've been aspiring to get to for a while now. So what's that like, actually having that kind of deal flow with these incredible people who are putting out such awesome stuff here in this space on a day to day. Yeah.
I mean, on a day to day, depends, right? I can go from high end productions, which I work with Jen, shout out Jen, and then on the other end could be like a one time edit that needs to be made the same day, right? So the day to day really depends on the workload because sometimes I've got clients that need me like, hey, we need to do a whole lot for 2 weeks and then nothing for 2 months, right? But I mean, overall, it's just an insane experience. You meet new people, you meet new clients, you do new projects, and what's the fun part is actually having impact, right? Because doing editing for editing, cutting clips, like, okay, cool, we can make money with it, but there's no real fun into it, right? So the love of the game, the fun part is really crafting a story. Or if, like, for example, a brand wants to push a product, what's the goal here? Actually showcase the product. What do we want to showcase for that product? And how are we going to bring users to actually try it afterwards while being entertaining, right? So I would say the fun part is really being creative. That's the blessing of doing video editing.
That's really cool. That's a really good way to say it as well. Finding a way to actually keep that passion alive, keep that meaning alive, because otherwise it just becomes another mundane tasks that you're doing over and over again here.
Yep.
So yeah,
And
that's
don't get
that's
me
brilliant.
wrong, when you start, you don't have that flexibility, right? You need to take everything that passes to gain that experience until at one point you know what's your ideal client, you know what's your ideal project, and you can kind of filter into it with depending on your time, right? But when you start, you need to take everything that comes across the board.
Makes a ton of sense. So for someone who's already video editing, who's breaking into the scene here, can you talk a little bit about kind of clients that would have you more so on a monthly retainer, expecting X amount of pieces of content per month versus kind of those one-off clients who will throw a job your way every now and then? What's your experience been like working for one client versus the other? Any recommendations, any advice you'd have?
I mean, my main advice would be try as much as possible to keep when you talk with new client, for example, make sure that the task list is clear on paper. No blurred lines of like between 10 to 20 clips. It's like, hey, how much do we agree on for X price, right? This is just simple. The client knows what they want, what they need, and on your end, you know what's going to be your workload. So it's easier to actually bring more clients in. And as for the difference between retainer and one offs, I mean, I say one offs, but usually it's someone that asks for a different project multiple time in the year, but just at different moments. It's not like a retainer that's like an X amount of money getting paid for X amount of clips or edits made per month, right? But I would say overall, make sure to put yourself out there to work with clients that not only you can help them with their brand, but that can actually help yourself grow and find new clients. And just make sure to work with people you love working with. So that way it doesn't feel like work. It's really just like a partnership.
That's perfect. That's huge because I know there's kind of that dark side of just working Web3 in general. I would say I'm not gonna focus it completely in on video editing per se, but it certainly exists there as well. You know, are there any experiences of working for less than ideal clients? You don't have to name names or anything like that, but if there are, how was that for you? What did you learn from that? And what advice would you give for someone in a similar position?
Well, there's a good story that was back in July or August. And it was a client I agreed on for specific work. And I don't want to go too much into details, but what happened is that we did the whole amount of work, the whole thing completely. We had like this lined up to go out for like a partnership or something, a huge announcement. And after working like probably like I would say 50 hours on it, like a huge work, they kind of scrapped it, right? And the reason why I took the deal was because of the visibility it would have given me, right? So after that time, this is really where I told myself I'm only going to take projects I actually enjoy. And worst case, I'm just going to have more free time, right, on my end. This was the whole logic. And now I take work that I actually enjoy and I got no free time. So it's not because you skip an opportunity that it's not going to come back. There's always new opportunities. You never know when. You could say no to a deal that you think it's the deal of a lifetime, and the day after you get a deal that's 10 times bigger. So make sure to choose the right people to work with.
Yes, yes, that makes a ton of sense here. Make sure you choose the right people to work with. And what sort of due diligence do you do before saying yes to a contract, if any? Like, do you strictly go for clients from word of mouth? Do you search anywhere for new clients here? And then once you have either a proposal or an offer, let's say from a client you aren't familiar with, do you do any kind of research? Do you kind of ask around? Like, what does that look like for you?
I don't go that complicated. Like right now, I've got so many clients that there's not a lot of research I do on my end. But what I did when I was beginning was cold DMing people and like just
Mm,
doing free work for people too, right? So that way you kind of build a portfolio while not risking anything on your end. You're just
mm,
giving free work. Here you go. You upgraded your skill. Someone got something and maybe they want more, right? But today, what I would do for a client is one, make sure that they know what they're paying for in the sense that you just make it clear, like, hey, this is for X amount. For example, like you're getting paid $1,000 a month, you get, for example, 20 clips. This is the math, right? Like at the end of the day, you're giving a service, and that service has a price. So just make sure that everything's clear. And otherwise, I mean, just do quick research on the brand, right? You don't want to associate yourself with shady brands. Like,
Mhm.
I got approached with like meme coin stuff, not really my thing. So I make sure to work with clients that I actually approve the brand too, right? If you're starting,
Nice.
sure, you may be like, they want to pay me good. I'm maybe going to take it, but always
Yeah.
thinking to the side where it's maybe not a project you could even show in your portfolio. So you're maybe better taking another client on or a less paying client, but that actually builds your portfolio and your whole personal brand with it.
I love it.
This
I
would
love
be
how
my
all of
advice.
this. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's definitely makes some things clear in my brain here, and I like how it all comes back to that personal brand and preserving that image, preserving that brand here, because that's gonna be what sustains you in the long run. It'll allow you to charge more. It'll allow you to get higher quality clients here and things like that. So yeah, that keeping that in mind, keeping that as kind of your north star makes a ton of sense here. So
And at one point, if you do it right, the brands that you think are unreachable, you could not work with, are going to reach out to you, right? There's always
facts.
someone who knows someone who hears that someone needs someone, right?
Yes.
And people are going to be like, for example, there's a post yesterday. It was like, hey, we're looking for a video editor. I got tagged like 8 or 9 times, right? This
Yes.
comes because you become so familiar in your specific field that brands know you're doing it. They're going to reach out to you also.
I
So
love
that's a
that.
fun part about if you have a good reputation, it will help you in the long run.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's just yeah. I think that things are really starting to connect in my brain here. So actually on that note, Drew, can you tell us about an experience and feel free to name names on this one here of where a dream project reached out to you in your DMs and you were just in that moment you're like, "Yes, this is what I've been working for. This is what I've been excited for." Can you tell us a little bit about that and what it was like for you?
I mean, I'm gonna tell a story that's kind of pretty crazy to me. I feel like a cinema movie almost, right?
Yes.
I've got a video that's gonna come out about it. I'm spilling it out here. But what happened was at the time, Shred Guy was working with Rug Radio, right? He was under
Mhm.
their banner. He was doing a whole lot of content with them, and he was like up and coming. I did some clips for free for him, and I just tweeted, I am tweeting this. I don't remember the verbatim, but it was in the sense that I'm tweeting this so that I can work with Tread Guy and work radio this year, right? I tagged
Yes.
them both in the tweet. It's a three liner. Nothing happened there. 2 hours later, I see Tread Guy commenting, tagging the boss, tagging Farouk, CEO of now president of Rock Radio, and Farouk being like,
What?
"Hey, we're actually looking for someone doing clipping for Tread Guy right now. We were actually going to do a job posting for it." So I actually got the gig right after, just by doing a random tweet without a big account, maybe like 1,200 followers, getting like 3 likes a post, just putting this out there, and here you go. I had an actual paying gig.
Unreal, Drew. Unreal. Man, that's so first of all, congrats on that. Thread Guy is absolutely been crushing it these days. Rug Radio and Baroque have been just on the top of the game as long as I've been exposed to them. Like absolutely incredible here. Even years ago now, they were still just absolutely like pillars of the X community on in crypto here.
Yeah.
So like it's clear to show, because that wouldn't have happened for just any 1,200 follower account. Clearly at that point you would put some effort into showing your work, being consistent, keeping things quality, keeping things on brand here, to the point where Red Guy and Farouk saw your profile and kind of connected those two dots of this guy's looking for a job. He's clearly hungry. He already knows who we are and he wants to work for us here. And here's his work. So it's kind of like the complete picture. It comes together and things just materialize for you. That must have been nuts, my man. That is so
Well,
cool.
I was mind blown.
Yeah, to say the least here. So
Yep.
kind of moving forward from kind of that like excitement of, you know, realizing you've landed this huge ticket client here. Can you tell us a little bit about some of these other clients that you've worked for and like maybe some of your favorite experiences that you've had so far working with some massive names like Shiv, like Fight ID, like all these other insane partners that you've worked with so far?
I feel everything comes almost randomly, but you put the
Mhm.
work beforehand, right? So you build a portfolio, you put your work out there, and then something happens. You're like, oh my God, this is so random. But for example, with Shiv, how it happened is just me cold DMing Shiv, hey, I've seen your content with Pudgy. It's pretty good. If you ever need an editor, like, let me know. And he
Yeah.
answered, like, he didn't need me at all. But at one point, he was doing a podcast with little Pudgies, and it was like, hey, I'm gonna need an editor for this. Can you help me out? And I was like, yeah, sure. And since then, it's just been a relationship where we're just scaling up the contents, doing more and more, right?
Hmm.
For example, like Fight ID was with Andrew Forte. How it happened is he was invited to go out there and was like, hey, let's film a whole vlog with it. And he just bring me along. 1 week notice, hey, do you want to come in New York, Fight ID, UFC? I was like, let's do it, right?
Yes.
Most of the stories that happen that are the most impressive ones usually come from an obsession of making it and also kind of preparing your basics beforehand, right? Which is having a portfolio, having a clean profile, sharpening your skill, and simply trying to put yourself out there. So cold DMs, tweeting, however you can do it. You never know who's going to see you or your work, and this is really going to open doors for you.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. I think that's the clip of the show right here. The obsession of making it. Brilliant. Okay, I'm taking that timestamp down right now. Expect to see this on your timeline in a future date here. It's coming at you guys here. So, Drew, it's been a hell of a conversation, my friend. I feel like I just the more we talk, the more questions come up, the more excited I get. But we have about 8 minutes left for the hour. I feel bad. I never even asked you how much time you have for this conversation here. I just assumed that it was an hour here. But how are you doing for time right now?
I would say add a 10 minutes on top
Okay, perfect.
just for
Excellent.
the extra questions.
Just for the extra questions. Perfect. Um, I'm just super curious. You know, we've been chatting for just over 50 minutes now. Is there anything that's coming to your mind? Would you like to steer this conversation for a little bit? Is there anything in there that's just, you know, you're kind of chomping at the bit to talk about? Anything that's just you think would be valuable to share with our audience right now?
I feel that for anyone who wants to do like video editing more specifically, there's no playbook or blueprint, right? We see a lot of like YouTube tutorials or whatever. People like, I got a one-on-one blueprint, right? My only advice would be don't, everybody has their own journey. Like I with the stories I told today, like a lot can happen randomly. We all do stuff differently. We all have our own lives, and there's no specific blueprint you can follow one on one, right? What I would advise is take examples, multiple people or multiple things you see, and kind of mix it up into your own formula.
Mhm.
So this would be what I would have to say to anybody that's trying to do whatever, like marketing, entertainment, like content, whatever. Just take whatever works from a bunch of people and do it your own thing.
That's brilliant. So the idea of creativity has been something that I've like really been wrestling for a while here. I've never considered myself a creative person, and that's always been such a mental block for me in my video editing. I've like labeled myself as a non-creative. So how the hell am I supposed to come up with some cool video editing idea? But it all I'm going to tell a little bit of a story right now. I was talking with a friend of mine. We were walking our dogs together, and I was telling him about this. I'm like, listen, I'm not creative. If someone put a gun to my head, I can't come up with these things. And he told me straight up, it's like, Trav, you're overthinking this. Being creative isn't about reinventing the wheel. Like, look at cooking, for example. Your goal
It
isn't to come
isn't.
up with new ingredients. Your goal is to take pre-existing ingredients and putting together making a new combination of ingredients that already exist, but making a new combination that no one's ever thought of before. So this just like going back to video editing,
Yeah.
kind of put that whole thing together. And I remember having that thought, you know what, maybe Drew, maybe I am a little bit more creative than I thought here. Maybe I am overthinking it. And this is something that I've personally learned about myself from this conversation here is I tend to overthink the crap out of things. So don't be like me. You can do this.
Yeah, and a lot of, I would say a lot of ideas usually are not reinventing the wheel, right? I was
Mhm.
watching a podcast from Colin and Samir, which if you're a creative, I would recommend 10 out of 10 on YouTube.
Awesome.
And they were covering how, I don't remember with who, but they were talking how reinventing the wheel is not something you should do, right? You don't
Mm.
need to find a new idea. If you take, for example, like a big example, right? Want to appeal to a million people? Let's talk about Bees games on Amazon, right? If you look like, sure, it's Bees branded, it's a bunch of challenges, a bunch of stuff, but the whole concept is the same as Survivor, which existed in like 2010, right?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people that are doing challenges, trying to survive, and people are getting eliminated round by round until there's one winner in the end, right? It's the same exact content, just rebranded. And it's the same thing for all ideas. Like you write on YouTube, I think it's like if you had to go on YouTube right now, you write 100 years of, there's 20 videos with the same exact thumbnail, the same exact like title, but they all get millions of views only because they all have their own twist, right? It's not the
Mm.
same people, same personalities, or same environment they're doing it. So you don't need to reinvent stuff. You simply need to find a good idea, like, hey, I like this, let's just remake it.
That's awesome. Okay, man, I'm feeling empowered from this conversation, Drew. Thank you, man. So maybe this is one point that we haven't really taken the time to establish yet, Drew. So I'm super curious to hear your take on this. Why video editing? Why is it, why is it worth why is it worth a content creator's time to consider making video content? Like how's that going to help them? Why is it worth their time, their energy, their money, all of this?
You mean as a creator or someone who wants to scale their business and make content for it? Because
Both,
it's
actually.
two whole different things, right? I mean,
Interesting.
on one end,
Okay.
if yeah, if you make content like for your business, I feel it's way more natural because you're
Mhm.
simply doing a couple things, which is showing your knowledge, showing who you are to find clients, right? So it's pretty straightforward. You showcase your skill, you showcase who you are so they have an idea on your personality, on who they're going to work with. Pretty simple. On the creator side, if you start, like, for example, we're talking about entertainment and education, and you're someone who wants to entertain and do like highly complex YouTube videos, whatever, I feel that you need to start with like a huge passion because you won't make money at first, right? Like, sure, there's a couple examples that get millions of views after like 3 videos on YouTube, but in the major cases, it's tens and tens of videos before actually hitting one, right? If it hits. So I feel it's simply out. People do it out of passion, just sharing with others, connecting with people with similar interests, and just showcasing their craft. It's just like any hobby, I would say.
Mm. That's brilliant. So, kind of a follow-up question on that. Let's speak directly to a content creator on X, where they have the option of sticking to written content, maybe throw out some images, or or rather add some videos to their profile. Um, would you recommend anyone trying out video content, whether it's putting their face out there, whether it's just use creating video content to help express their vision, their purpose? What's your take on that?
I mean, to me, video content is the most consumed type of content. Like, we see it not only on X, we see it on YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, right? There's Reels, there's long form, there's whatever. There's 20 million videos coming out on YouTube per day, right? Which is huge. So, in the end of the
Every
day,
video.
there's a huge demand for it because
Mhm.
people actually enjoy it. That's millions of views on a bunch of videos that lines up to years of watch time per day, right? So I would say don't overcomplicate, try to justify it. People consume video, they're going to keep consuming it. So why should you not try it at least?
Awesome. That's a great take. Not the take I was expecting. Not the take I've heard before, but a new one, and it's super enticing here. It just makes a ton of sense.
I
I
feel
feel
it's
like
just like, I could say it's the most nice, the best way to put yourself out there. You can showcase your craft, be fully creative, but not everybody wants to be super creative. It's just that it's the most consumed type of content. Don't try to skip the data at the end of the day. People will watch content, so you should do it yourself so people can actually come into your content and maybe get driven into the written content afterwards, right? Or vice versa.
I love it. Man, Drew, we've covered a lot this conversation here. We've spoken about, you know, optimal ways to create video content using AI, using your own brain, how to ideate ideas. Wow, I was a little bit redundant. How to come up with ideas for scripts, for video kind of formats as well. We've spoken about some of your incredible partnerships that you've made, traveling the world here. Actually, maybe to wrap it up here, tell us a little bit about Thailand. So you're in Thailand right now, and you're planning on being out on that part of the world for the next 3 months here. How's that been fitting your expectation? How's that experience been for you? Tell us it all.
I mean, overall, it was just circumstances on a personal level that work with being a video editor, working on your laptop, right? My lease ended in Canada. I was like, I got a 3 month leeway. Let's just go in Thailand with my wife and go for 1 month in Thailand, 1 month in Vietnam, 1 month in Indonesia, right? But how it's been, I mean, it's great. Canadian winter, you know how it is. It's
Oh,
minus 30
yes.
degrees, a bunch of snow outside. It's gray all the time. Here's it's only sun. There's only sun. You feel energized. You feel great. But I mean, the culture is great. The food is delicious. Like, I'm sorry, pizza is getting out of the way. Now it's pad thai, way better. But otherwise, it's really just having fun, doing my work, and doing content around it.
I love it, man. Super happy for you here. Yeah, Thailand's been top of the list here for a while as a destination, so I couldn't be happier for you and your wife to spend some time just exploring the world, getting some sun. Because yeah, Canadian winters suck. It's brutal.
It's hard. It's harsh. Yeah.
Mhm. Excellent, man. Well, you know what? This has been a fantastic live stream. We've been connecting now for just over an hour. We have well over 100 viewers right now. And this is just, really, really do appreciate your time being here with me at 10 o'clock at night, your time here, my friend. Any kind of final message, any kind of final words you'd like to share about you, yourself, your work, anything you want to let the community know about, any last bits of advice?
Nothing about myself other than if you like valuable content around video editing, you can check my profile out. But otherwise, if you're listening and you want to make something happen, you want to build a new skill, just do it over and over again and watch YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. Don't overthink it. You can learn any skill on YouTube. This would be my best advice.
Yes, brilliant. Take it into your own hands, empower yourself, make it happen. Drew, you've changed some lives
Yep.
today, my friend, and I'm not at all exaggerating about that. You've certainly helped me out personally. So if no one else got anything from this, and I'm sure you guys did, know that you've helped me out tons here, my friends. So Drew, once again, thank you so much for taking the time here. To all of our viewers, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation here. Definitely prepare yourselves for some clips. Feel free to check out our YouTube account where this will be published for the rest of time here as well. Yeah, huge shout out to you, Drew. Thanks to everyone who's with us, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Drew, I will ask if you can just hang out just for like a couple of minutes while we finish the upload
Cool.
here. And yeah, that'll be that.
Perfect.
That's a wrap. Thank you guys so much. Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful rest of your day. Take care.